Okay, let's conclude this discussion on medieval literary forms. But before finishing, you should be aware that this discussion is more important in a sense that these material they are going to inform you and to warn you at different stages in learning about the history of English literature. So, if this is the last part of our discussion, it should be by no means treated as the least important, also. Uh, we start with medieval allegory, and in the mind map, you can see it toward the right of the map, mm, encircled. Uh, Please be careful in understanding the concept of allegory at this point of time. You have not really experienced different literary forms, so some of you might uh, feel a bit, afraid or confused regarding what actually allegory is all about. It's very easy. The only thing for you is to just to attend to what I am saying. There is a very, very, um, you know, specific thing about learning what allegory is. So let's start. Allegory is a form of a metaphor, and I hope you know what do you mean when we talk about metaphor. You have heard about similes and then metaphors, and of course this is all about comparing two different things. In simile, the things may be compared to make them look one, and in allegory the case may be a bit different. So this is a kind of an extended metaphor in which you bring two different things together and try to make a meaning out of their association. And then what happens? When you bring these two things together, you give two levels of meanings to what you are writing about. I mean, allegory. If you are writing an allegorical poem, you actually have two levels of meaning. One is existing inside the text that you are writing, and the other level is over and above the text that readers are exposed to. If, before I spend more time on making you understand what I am talking about, I will switch over to Pashto just to make your task of understanding it easy. The allegory چې ده تاسو به میټافر اورېدلی، تاسو به سیمیلي اورېدلی. په دې کې په ظاهره باندې فرق په الیګري کې کمال دا دی چې ته دوه مختلف څیزونه راواخلي او هغه د یو بل سره په داسې جوړ کې چې کله ته هغه قیصه کې نو د هغې دوه معنی. لکه مثال کې طور پر په یو قیصه ده، په هغې کې دوه کیریکټرز دي. نو یو خو چې دا دوه کیریکټرز د یو بل سره کم معاملات کوي، نو یو دا قیصه روانه ده. دا د یو عام سړي د فهم دپاره ده. لکه مثال کې طور پر دوه کیریکټرز دي، یو ګناه دی یو ثواب دی. د یو سړي نه ګناه نوم دی، د بل نه ثواب نوم دی. نو د دې دواړو په منځ کې چې کوم انټریکشن راځي، نو په هغې باندې تاسو خپله رایه قایمولی شئ چې ښه په دې قیصه کې دا دي. خو یو د ګناه او د ثواب یو کانسپټ د دې کیریکټرز نه بهر هم اگزیسټ کوي. نو ته چې کله په هغې باندې خبره کوې، نو د دې مطلب دا شو چې ستا شاته یو بله معنی هم پرته ده. یا بل مثال در کوم، که فرض که تاسو یو کیریکټر دی، په په هغې کې یو بلا ده. د هغې بلا سره چې د هیرو کوم انکاونټرز راځي، نو دا عام طور مونږ په فلمونو کې، په ډرامو کې، په لټریچر کې ګورو چې د بلا او د هیرو په منځ کې مقابله وي. خو لیټ سپوز د دې بلا نه د رایټر مقصد دروغ دی. لیټ سپوز د دې بلا نه دروغ نوم دی، د دې نوم دروغ دی. د دې مطلب دا دی چې د هیرو په ژوند کې د دې بلا سره چې کومه واسطه راځي، یو دا قیصه ده، او بیا د دې هیرو چې د دروغو سره کومه واسطه راځي، یو دا قیصه ده. نو یو په سیمبالیک لیول باندې په هوا کې د دې معنی، او یو د دې اکچولی په ټیکسټ کې معنی، او د دې دوو معنو په وجه دې ته الیګري وایي. او دا دوه معنی د څنګه کریټ کوي دا رایټر دا د میټافور په ترو باندې او میټافور څه ته وایي چې ته دوه سیزونه راواخلي او د هغې د یو بل سره یو داسې تړون جوړ کړي په هایر لیول باندې چې په هغې ته مکمل قیصه لکه داسې نه ده چې یاره که فرض که یو رایټر یو کیریکټر ته د فالس هوډ نوم ورکوي د ټروت نوم ورته ورکوي نو دا به د اینډه پورې دی دا قیصه دام بوځي چې که فرض که دروغ وي د هغې څه انجامي که رښتیا وي د هغې څه انجامي نو زما په خیال باندې که د دې حده پورې په تاسو پوه شوئ نو د دې نه اخوا چې څومره ډسکشن دی دا د دې ایکسپلینیشن دی نو I hope چې this is now clear to you. Let's continue with our discussion. The allegorical figure exists simultaneously on two levels of meaning. This is what I already told you, that there are two levels. One is the literal one that is existing inside the text, in the narrative, and then the other one is the symbolic level, which is outside the narrative. So what happens? What happens is basically that when you read an allegory, it asks or it evokes your interest at two levels. On the one hand, you are interested in the events, in the characters, and in the setting presented. And then, on the other hand, you are thinking at the level of the ideas the text is projecting. Now, as I already explained, if you talk about few examples, personification is a great tool to produce a wonderful allegory. Personify abstract qualities. I hope that those people who were attentive in the class must remember that we had a discussion on personification. But if you have a problem with understanding personification, you can ask. Abstract qualities that do not actually exist but they are there. They are abstract. Like for example, gluttony. Gluttony, overeating, which is, I told you that among the deadly sins in Christianity. Then envy, hasad kawal, bughz kawal, then truth, then even beauty. Even death can be personified. څوک مړ شي د مرګ په ذات خودم چې دی نو د یو symbolic value. And there can be so many other things with regard to understanding the concept of allegory. Now when you talk about allegorical writings, now allegory is something which does not exist in isolation. Please remember this. An epic can be allegorical, a romance can be allegorical if the meanings are surviving and existing at two levels. We say that this concept is allegorical. Now allegory is not something which is really independent. It may be existing independently, but generally speaking other forms of literature may be having allegorical significance. As I told you that even a romance can be allegory. Like let me give you an example of one from the Middle Ages. We have this example of Roman de la Rose. Romandelarose. Now this Roman de la Rose is basically, it exists in two parts. I don't want to go into the details of the two parts, how they were produced, but the first part was produced by de Loris in 1227, and then the other part was written by Jean de Meun in 1266 to 1277, means over a period of 11 years. Now, leaving who contributed what to this Roman de la Rose, let's talk about what is there. Now, this is basically a romance, but this is allegorical romance. How? You take the example of the qualities of the heroine in this romance. Means she has the quality of shame, fear, kindliness, courtesy. All these qualities are personified. And now if you look at the hero, he has to encounter the lady in her different moods. Now, when she is in one mood, she may be receptive, she may be accepting his advances, and at times, depending upon her mood, she may not be um, willingly accepting his advances. And then you have this concept of a rose in the poem. Gul, Gulab Chide. Now, this is basically symbolic of the lady's love. Now, you take the example of this rose and love. Now, they have nothing, at literal level, common, but the writer has associated. If you want to achieve or if you want to succeed in getting the goodwill of the lady, means you are actually trying for that rose. So if you get that rose, it means you get her love. So this again establishes my earlier point when I said that the meaning has to exist at two levels. Mm, Now, there are certain other qualities that the hero would need and the hero would benefit from in order to ensure his access to the heroine. Means his courtesy. Uh, Again, if the lady is having this element of fear and shame in her, this is going to obstruct the journey or the advancement of the hero. And then mm, later on, when we move forward in history, we notice that Geoffrey Chaucer translated some part of this romance. And when we look at his translation, we know that he is talking about the story in a different manner, and the narrator is actually narrating a dream. So, at one hand, now this is a dream poem also in that sense, if he is talking about what he has experienced in a dream. So, if you are talking about a dream in your poem, it means you are actually dealing with a dream poem. So, again, my point is that you should not confuse yourself time and again with whether we are talking about allegory, we are talking about romance, or we are talking about dream poem. All these qualities may be combined into one poem because it's up to the reader. It's up to the skill of the writer to accommodate and adjust to his writing and his imaginative journey. So then again, when Chaucer is actually translating, then it also falls into the category of dream allegory. So the whole point was that allegory and this dream allegory and then romance allegory, all these may exist side by side depending upon the manner and the content that is forming part of medieval allegory. And then slowly and gradually, when we move on in the history of English literature, we come across so many good examples of allegories, which we hope that we will be dealing with them at the appropriate time. So let's finish this medieval allegory here and go to medieval ballads. Now, this is the last part that we are to cover in our discussion over the different literary forms. Some important things to remember about medieval ballad includes its anonymity. Anonymity means they are generally oral in nature, transmitted orally from one generation to another. So generally we don't have exact information as to who has authored a particular ballad. And the zamung pade mashira kijida ulasi sandari. No bala sandari there are so many other forms of literature which we keep on repeating, but we don't know as to who are the actual authors of those writings. So medieval ballad and ballad in general also falls in that category. Normally they are short stories, and they have direct linked with popular tradition. مطلب ظاهره خبره ده چې کوم سیز عامي په معاشره کې خلک یوز کوي څوک دې ته نه ګوري چې دا چا جوړ کړی څنګه جوړ کړی بس ټول خلک د هغې نه خپله مزه اخلي د دې که فرض که تاسو کانسټیټیوشن ته وګورئ چې په څه طریقه باندې دا بیلډي نو musically rhymed or normally the stanzas are short, maybe 2 or 4 lines, and then there is a simple music also accompanying singing the ballad. They are generally produced by common people, and they were not supposed to be written but would be recited and sung by people in the market squares, in pub houses, ale houses, and even at fairs the melo वगैरह के खलक दा दगा कई. And then there would be some special people also who would sing and dance toward celebrating this concept of ballad. If you remember in our previous discussion, maybe some 2-3 parts before, we talked about refrain, and we referred it to I think lyrics. Refrain is basically the prominent feature of every ballad, and I told you that this is normally a line which is repeated after regular intervals. که تاسو خیال کړئ خلک چې په شریکه باندې دا کم میوزیک دغه کوي او په منځ کې پکې یوه کرښه یا دوه داسې راځي چې هغه بیا ټول په کورس کې وایي that actually is the refrain. These ballads, as I told you, are orally transmitted narrative poems. Their themes are common to folk culture, folk people. They may be derived from different sources, like even a romance can provide a theme and a point of celebration or singing for a ballad. Then it can refer to popularly known heroes, applicable to the local culture in which such ballads are produced. Maybe historical events can also fall in the scope of a ballad, and then we keep on moving from the Middle Ages to the modern times, and we have so many other ballads also, but the only difference that has been created over the course of time is that the ballads that are produced in the recent times may not be necessarily oral ballads. They are now literary ballads. Literary ballads means people have written them and their authors are known. تاسو ته په کلاس کې ما د ټپې خبره کړې وه چې عام طور ټپه چې دی نو د هغې author نه یې معلوم، هغه پخوا نه را روانې دي، خو اوس خو هم شاعران ټپې لیکي نو هغه لیټرري ټپه ده. مخکینی چې کوم و هغه اورل وه، هغه د یو جنریشن نه بل ته ټرانسفر کېده، چاته دا پته نه دا چې اوس هم چاته پته نشته چې دا چا کمپوز کړي. دا لیټرري چې دي نو لیټرري هغه دي چې د هغې author معلوم دی او د هغې شاته چې څوک دي هغه معلوم دي. نو same is the case with literary and oral ballad. If it's oral, it means the author or the origin is not known, and if it's literary, it means things are known about that whole ballad. So let's sum up. This was all about our discussion regarding medieval literary forms. Just to repeat and reiterate, if you have any problem, please ask. Please encourage others to ask questions. Please don't feel any kind of hesitation. And please, please, please also do not forget to record in your comments if there was any specific point or a word or a sentence or a concept that you think I did not succeed in explaining in a decent, understandable manner. And if you point to that, I will try my level best to make things clearer for you. Thank you.